Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your game, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to another week of Dad Bod Fantasy Football. What's up, Norton?
Not much, man. How are you doing?
I had a rough week 5, dude. I want to say I should have had this ready to kind of complain about this, but I want to say I took about 3 different losses within 4 points.
Ooh, yeah, that's
and
tough.
Add another 2 within
close.
Add another 2 that were like 135 to 143, 112 to 119. But then I had some really close ones that I lost, and it was rough, dude. It was a rough. I don't know why all my teams fell short. I didn't get any of the flip side. Maybe one. I got one flip side where I won by 7, but it was a bad week for me.
Dude, that's rough. It was kind of opposite for me because, I mean, started off hot with that DJ Moore, so
every life was good for you, you know?
Yeah, it was. It was for once, you know?
It was good to see DJ Moore back at it. I mean, obviously that was the Thursday night game, but I don't think there was somebody that joined our show and they asked DJ Moore, and I can't even think of who else they asked. But me and Robbie specifically said DJ Moore is going to play fine tonight, but I like this person more. It may have been Acham.
I think it was.
Albert? Okay, that's kind of relieving then.
Yeah, because he still balled out, dude. That's what happened. So the previous week in one of my main home leagues, I benched DJ Moore for Achan. There was the week they both ended up putting up 30, but so it wasn't like that. I should have benched Flowers that week, but yeah, I ended up benching him. I mean, it didn't matter in the end because it was an even swap and I ended up winning. So, but yeah, I can understand the feeling, especially when DJ Moore goes for about 50 that night.
DJ Moore. Mm-hmm. Let's get into some news. There was a lot of news that came out today, and a lot of unfortunate news. Some big hitters
for sure.
Some real big hitters here. So we had Justin Jefferson to IR with hamstring issue. Not good.
Yeah.
Kind of worried if Minnesota doesn't win.
Yeah, because it could extend longer.
This is pretty positive a troll question here, and I can't show it right now or else it is. I'm trying. There we go. I got offered Baker Mayfield for Jordan Love in a PPR league. Should I take that trade?
Especially in PPR.
I'm not sold. Yeah, I'm not sold on Jordan Love. Definitely trolling me right now. He says Jordan Love is on fraud alert, and even more so after last night's game. Devon Achane out multiple weeks with knee injury. We have a guy, obviously, that's going to be on our waiver list because of this. This sucks. What do you always say about this, Norton?
Hate it.
Can't have nice things.
You can't have nice things. You can't ever have nice things. Once we get them, they take them away. It's so brutal. He's been so fun for the short times.
1 yards per carry or something crazy.
Unreal, dude.
Unreal. That's historical.
I was gonna say he's the greatest running back of all time. I think fastest man alive.
5 weeks in, he's the greatest ever. Say it again.
Can't have nice things. Anthony Richardson out 4 to 6 weeks, shoulder injury.
Sucks.
This
one's brutal.
Yeah, this week has been attacking me hard. I had a lot of Justin Jefferson. I had a lot of Achane.
Like, probably had a ton of AR. You loved AR.
I did.
You looked great.
It's so brutal. It's so frustrating.
That's
unbelievable.
Another guy that we will talk about in the episode coming up. Back to this, James Conner out multiple weeks with knee injury. I don't know when you updated this, Norton, but he's also on IR, so it's out at least 4 weeks.
Another one getting me, man. That was he was my most drafted running back in best ball season.
No way, because of value.
Yeah, because I got him in like 8th, 9th round, pretty much. So like, and I would go a lot of hero running back.
Yeah,
and so this one's hurt. This, like I said, this week hurt me pretty good in best ball specifically because I had Achane was my 4th most drafted running back, Connor my most, Anthony Richardson my most drafted QB. So yeah, it was pretty brutal. And
Connor's super tough because I saw that hit live. I was watching this game, like he jumped, he got hit. But like all I thought when he was out for the rest of the game, I thought, man, his knee is probably super sore. Like it looked like he almost took a helmet to the knee. That's what I thought. But I think it was something landed.
I wonder, yeah. And he's obviously an older dude with injury history, so like you always got to be, a little worried about it. I didn't actually see that. I still haven't seen the hit necessarily. I didn't even, but yeah, one of the guys I work with was saying he saw it, and he's like, yeah, he looked like he took a helmet to the knee.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought that was it. So the IR surprised me.
Yeah.
So I hadn't seen much about this, but you have it here. Khalil Herbert out multiple weeks with ankle injury. Now I saw it was a high ankle sprain. I didn't see he was necessarily ruled out. Are you just assuming, or you actually saw a report saying that?
I'm pretty sure I saw a report.
That's a good point, Felix. Running behind that crap Steelers line. Has been rough.
Yeah, really. I thought I saw a report it says Pelissero of NFL Network relays that Herbert could miss multiple weeks. So
I think he's an IR candidate too, and
it's know
by Saturday.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, dude. It's very possible, and even like we've seen with Saquon, we've seen with everyone, every running back that gets a high ankle sprain, they're always out longer than they think they're going to be, and they're always come back not as strong as they were. Like, and it wasn't like he was killing it anyway. So like when he comes back, what's his role? How effective is he going to be even in the role? It's interesting.
I hate this, but we'll talk more about it here shortly. Dante Foreman stock up. Rams trade Van Jefferson to the Falcons. This is a big nothing sauce.
Yeah,
sauce.
Falcons get another receiver so they can just not use them. That's what.
Yeah, no, actually, Van Jefferson might be used more than Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Is what they're probably planning.
It's probably more than them combined. They might trade away London for less than they traded for Jefferson. You never know with Arthur Smith. He's going wild.
There's an enemy number one for you and Rob. Arthur Smith.
For sure.
You guys have his he's what NFL players call bulletin board material. That's what
he is, dude. You should see my house. I got him pinned up around the house just so I can walk by and smack when I go
smack the billionaire off his face.
Yeah, no, it's he probably is nothing.
Do you have a guess that player today?
I don't. I'm sorry. I should have told you. I should have told you. I should have said.
That's funny. I was like, what? Let me hop over to our waiver wire. We'll pull it back up once I get the sides shared. All right.
I feel like a QE that just like led you right over the middle just to take a brutal hit right there.
Well, I have this early because we have a new segment that we wanted to get into before we get into the waiver wire finds, and I promise it won't be too long before we get to them because in general, it's just a fun little segment after week 5. What did we learn this week? So I know you have a post that you do, your recap post that's similar to this. I'm going to kick off because one of the things that I learned this week is that it's kind of a combo piece here. Okay. Houston's rush defense isn't as bad as years past. Plus, the game script doesn't allow for RBs to just keep jamming it down their throat. Yeah. So if you have been one like me and Rob that have kind of been plugging in every RB versus Houston's rush defense in DFS, I don't think we could do that anymore. But there is still an option, everyone. There is still one great option, actually, and that is Denver. So if you are doing DFS a lot, or if you're looking for maybe somebody to plug in, pretty much any RB that's going against Denver has been eating. You could possibly plug them in if they have enough of a role in that offense.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Like, it was frustrating because I did play Bijan in DFS, played Bijan in Baby Bowl, expecting big things this week. And yeah, it seems like they're not the same defense to pick on with running backs like they were both the past year or two.
Did you want me to keep rolling with mine?
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going with yours here.
Number 2 of the things that I learned this week. If you see an elite wide receiver complaining about not getting the ball, plug them in your DFS lineup ASAP. Let's talk about an example here. AJ Brown in week 2 went off week 3. Jamar Chase in the press conference where he's like, I'm always effing open. Plugged him in. CeeDee Lamb is the next one, everyone. He feels a little bit concerned, doesn't know why he's not getting the ball. That means, although he plays Monday, so you'll have to figure out a Monday lineup, plug in your CeeDee Lamb for next week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And they get a nice matchup too. So going against the Chargers there.
Squeaky wheel.
Yeah. It definitely seems like a real thing when it comes to
it does
wide receivers.
The last thing I learned this week, which I already had an inclination of this one, Colts secondary rivaling Tennessee's as the worst in the league right now.
Yeah.
It's juicy for any wide receiver. Like D-Hop, who hasn't been much of anything all season, just destroyed them.
Yeah. No, I think for me, it's become like Colts, Titans.
Yes, Albert, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Starting the Pacheco against the Broncos. And I would say the other two that I would say I would add to that is the Bears and Commanders. It seems like they're getting ripped up in the secondary.
Yeah. Even to some degree, Philly.
Yeah.
Philly is.
And I think some of that is game script, the fact that they're getting thrown on so much. But yeah, one thing that I will say is one thing I'm starting to think of, and I heard it a little bit on a podcast today. I'll add a little thing here, is that Minnesota's rush defense, they got torn up by Swift, but other than that, they locked down almost everyone.
I know. I don't know what to think of that.
I think it was literally the way they played against the Eagles. It seemed like they were playing soft and playing back and not trying to let up a big play to Devontae or AJ Brown, and they just let them run on them. And obviously it didn't work, but
you know who goes them? It's gonna be a guy we talk about.
Wait, what's that?
Roshan faces Minnesota. Yeah,
I know. That's why it's interesting to me.
It is. It's going to be really interesting. I was exactly what I was looking at, because I don't know if you do this, but I get started. Things change. I get started on my main DFS lineup for a week. Monday night, I'm going.
Yeah, getting excited.
I adjust.
Oh, I always do. Yeah.
Roshan's currently in there, and
same.
But I because I was like, all right, how has Minnesota been against running backs? And they have honestly locked down. They've seen decent talent, nothing elite. So yeah, it's been tough. Waiver wire finds. So we kicking off with QBs?
Yeah, we can go ahead and kick with the QBs.
All right. So we got number 1, Russell Wilson. Why don't you kick us off here with Russell Wilson? Because I think this one's going to be the least available, but I'm sure you used your percentage. I'm positive of that. Of it's less than 50, I'm sure.
Well, so the first two are slightly over. But
we have been advocating for Russell and the other
Mhm.
one for weeks now.
Right. And that's the thing is like the roster percentage like stays the same. It seems like it hasn't gone up. I don't know if it's like just the negative like around Denver in general that people don't like, but we talked about how bad this defense is. They're getting destroyed. They're like historically bad. And that's great for Russell.
It
Because
is.
it's just like he's going to get to drop back, pass all the time. He's currently QB8 on the season, averaging 21 fantasy points a game. And again, if the defense stays bad, he's going to have to drop back. He's scored at least 15 in every game. He's running a bit. So, yeah, I mean, for me, he's probably going to have to be a top. I mean, I know he's, like I said, he's QB8 currently, but probably on the rest of the season, I'd rank him top 12, right? Or around that borderline right there.
I think you have to. And I think there's people picking up Stroud before Russell, and I think Stroud's a great pickup, but I would prioritize Russell over any QB we talk about today.
Same.
I would prioritize over probably a couple guys that are Danny Dimes. Jared Goff has been balling, so I'm not going to say Jared Goff. Who else has been
and he's
kind of
out there too.
underperforming? Like if you just lost Anthony Richardson, like there's just so many guys that I'd take Russell and plug him right into my lineup.
Yeah.
It was Fields sees Minnesota's defense this week. I think I'm rolling with Fields for another week.
I gotta go Fields. Like he's.
But can you stash Russell?
If you have room, depending on the depth of your I personally probably wouldn't, but like if it's a 1 QB league and you have really deep benches, sure. I personally would prefer, like, I'm confident enough in Fields being a good fantasy quarterback. I don't care I think he's gonna.
It's all been throwing.
It has been, but to me that's encouraging because then he can get to running if he needs to. I know he hasn't as much this year, but I think he will be fine. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a top 8, top 10 QB the rest of the way. Like, I don't think there's that much
for that to happen too.
Yeah.
How close were they to pulling the rug if they lost that game on Thursday?
Yeah,
reports those could have been fake.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. Like, for me, it's like he's good enough even when he's bad in real life. Like, he's good enough for what we want in fantasy that I don't think there's a big enough difference between him and Russ either way. Like, I don't think necessarily like I prefer Fields over Russ, but even if you prefer Russ, I don't think you can realistically expect Russ to outscore Fields by a ton, enough to the point where like it'd be justifiable if you were, instead of stashing like a high upside running back stash. Personally, that's my thought on it. But like if you have deep enough bench, it's fine.
With Fields, I'm on. I get it with the like elite quarterbacks. You don't want to roster the two, but I would be on the bubble with Fields, and I would want to maybe have like fair. A guy like Russell on my bench.
Definitely fair.
Number 2 on the list, Matthew Stafford. Been playing well, not amazing, but well without Cooper.
Right. Yeah, like you said, he got Cooper Kupp back this week. I think you put QB 15. I was trying to look it up here. QB 15 on the year, averaging like 17.5 fantasy points per game. 4 of the 5 games he's been between 16 and 21. Again, just got Kupp back. I prefer Russ over Stafford. He's been better. He's been better, and I think there's more upside from the running and just more dropbacks. I think Stafford has better weapons, obviously, but yeah, both of them are kind of in the similar range.
I think Stafford's on the end of that tier, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
if they're at 12 through 15, I could see Stafford staying at 15 and Russ staying at the higher 12, 11.
Yep, that's probably right where I would have them usually.
But Stafford's got some nice matchups. So again, if you just lost AR and he was your main guy, Stafford goes Cardinals, Steelers secondary has been rough. Dallas' defense is completely thrashed on with injuries. And then Green Bay kind of got torched a little bit by Vegas. They weren't really stopping too much.
Yeah, no, he has definitely a nice little stretch coming up too. These two to me are like the top 2 that are like mostly available. They're around 50%ish. These would be the top two for me to go to if you have Anthony Richardson go down.
Well, number 3 on the list, Sam Howell. I don't have much to say here because I don't think I'm bought in, but why don't you say if and why you are bought in a little bit on Sam Howell?
Yeah, so Sam Howell to me is like the generic brand Russell Wilson. Like he's like the poor man's Russell Wilson. He has the same kind of situation where the defense is bad and they're lighting up a lot of points, and so he's going to have to throw a lot. We saw that on Thursday night. I mean, I'm pretty sure they dropped back to pass almost every single play in the second half. You guys like Russ or Gino? That's tough. That's one that I've been here. I can understand it. I'm very close on both. I have them both like the same tier. I think I slightly lean Gino, but I also was higher on Gino heading into the year, and I believe in him. I think between those two, I think he's a better passer. I think Russ might run a little bit more, but Gino ran for 366 last year. It's not like he's not going to run. And I think he has better weapons, definitely, like DK, Lockett, if JSN gets going at some point.
Even the backs.
Yeah, even the backs to pass to and stuff. Like, so I prefer Gino slightly. I can't blame anyone either way though. And but yeah, with Howell, he's kind of like the poor man's Russ to me. Like, and almost like a combination of Russ and Fields in the sense that, like, how we talked about Fields is a much better fantasy QB than real life QB. That's Howell to a T. Like, I think he's a horrible real life QB. Like, he takes way too many sacks, puts his team in really bad spots, turns the ball over a lot. But those things don't affect us in fantasy as negatively as they do in real life. Like, a sack does not matter for us. It actually is almost advantageous.
Yep.
Because you just get more pass attempts, whereas in real life,
more yards.
It's almost like equivalent to a turnover. Essentially, you put your team in such a bad spot. So for us, though, again, like last week, he put up almost 30 because you threw 388 yards and 2 touchdowns and whatever. Like, he scored, I think 16, 21, 20, and 30 in the other 4 outside of Buffalo, where it was a terrible one.
No, that would be Dak. Yeah, that's a great comparison as well. I think the only concern that I have with this one is, like, you're comparing them to Russ, but I do think Washington's defense gets stronger throughout the year. Where in Denver, I don't think they get much difference unless who's there? It's not Vic, is it? They didn't get Vic Fangio, right? They have unless their defensive coordinator gets fired in Denver. But in Washington, they're younger. You got Ron Rivera as the head coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. You got Chase Young, who hasn't played for over a year, who's finally getting back to ball. That young cornerback who has been not doing well. But, like, all of these things are cleaning. I think they're working on cleaning up their defense, while Denver's doesn't. I don't see anything getting better with Denver right now.
I do agree for sure. And Howell's the bottom of this list of these guys, obviously. Right. I actually did pick him up in last week in a few leagues because you know how big I was on Gino. So I had a lot of Gino bye weeks last week, and Howell was the guy I replaced with in a lot of spots. And actually Russ was too.
Albert. Vance Joseph.
Okay. The other V name.
Yeah. So we got a couple here that I don't know. I see the images now, but it's too late for that. We're just going with the list.
That's all right.
So we have also checked for Geno Smith because, again, like you said, he was on a bye week. Some deeper ones are Baker Mayfield and Joshua Dobbs, and some superflex, Gardner Minshew and Tyrod Taylor. Any on this list that you want to kind of take note of, or?
Gino Gino jumps to the top of the list for me. I know you probably have him after Russ.
Probably sled.
Right.
I do.
I know Gino. The only reason I mentioned Gino was because he was on bye. I checked his roster percentages. It dipped to like 60, 65% on some of the places. So it's still, his roster's still in more than any of these, but definitely have a chance that he was dropped in some leagues because he wasn't killing it necessarily. He was doing fine. He had some good games, a couple down game or two, but yeah. And then Dobbs has been good except for last week. Like last week, he wasn't very good. Minshew
first interception.
Yeah. Minshew will probably be
a
another
huge
guy
super
that's
flex ad.
for sure.
He is probably priority waiver wire number 1 in super flex leagues.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. I was going to say he's probably your number 1 priority in a super flex league, especially if you have AR, like 100%. If you
That's a
he's the
juicy
top
matchup too. Jacksonville this first week.
Yeah, and Tyrod's one to kind of monitor because I don't know for sure what's going on with Daniel Jones in terms of if he's going to miss or not.
Yeah, it's not. They said he avoided a severe injury, like a really bad injury, I guess. So that's good. Okay. Let me get these open. We're going to start off with some RBs. We're going to run a little bit quicker on these ones. Okay, Norton?
Yeah, no, it works.
Number 1, Roschon Johnson. We have been harping on Roschon. I think this is week number 4. If he wasn't, and there were certain levels, because we have certain levels when we're talking about our waiver wires. We talk about the stash guys, the deeper ones, and then like the number ones. This week he makes the number 1 list, right?
Yeah, he's my number 1. I don't know if he's your number 1.
Well, I didn't have him, yeah,
right. I was gonna say, I knew you were super big on him. I was high on him as well. We've been touting him as a guy to stash on your bench because he has upside if Khalil Herbert gets hurt, which is what happened, or he had the possibility also of taking over the role. Like it was not unreasonable that he could have taken over a bigger role as the year goes on. So he had multiple outs, and now he did suffer a concussion Thursday night, so
should be fine. Right?
But he should be fine, right? Like almost everyone has missed the following week, but that's been Sunday to Sunday or Sunday to
I think Luke Musgrave recently.
Yep, exactly. Musgrave
had a concussion on Thursday, got back for Sunday, and I believe they're the Monday night game, weren't they?
I believe so as well. But either way, I think he should be good. Now, I mean, that's the thing. It was like I know a lot of people were talking Foreman, but
Chargers in Dallas are the Monday night game.
Okay, so it's either Sunday at noon.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's my top priority at running back at least for sure.
Yeah, the only concern is that there is some split with Dante. I'm willing to take that risk. I think this is the chance for Roschon to steal this job. We just talked about it. It's kind of a scary defense. We're not sold on it being a great rush defense against the RBs, but they have been good, except for one game against DeAndre Swift in week 2. So I remember that week because people were, and myself included, we're talking about, thank you, Notorious. Bear down. There he is.
Bear down.
Roschon. Well, I don't know why Willie's putting Roschon with the poop because he loves Roschon. So I'm excited to see Roschon this week. I am ready to see the Minnesota rush defense against him, and I think he outperforms.
Yeah, I do too.
Number 2, Jeffy Wilson Jr.
Yeah, buddy. This is a you special. Your guy from last year, especially. You were
last year. I was like, this is the guy, and now I feel I haven't even looked to see if he's available in a lot of leagues yet.
Yeah, he's more available than Roschon, at least from the percentages I had looked at. So I definitely, I mean, I would think that he is. I was trying to actually, it was funny because anywhere I could put him in an IR spot, I was kind of trying to stash him before this. So I'd have him in a few spots, luckily. But yeah, he is coming off of IR himself. Obviously, we saw Devon Achane. He's going to be out. May hit the IR. I don't know if he's going to hit IR or not. He's out multiple weeks, though. And Mostert kind of dealing a little banged up himself, but at the same time, I mean, even if he's healthy, they're going to split. I would think that's what they did last year. That's what they've done pretty much all of this year with them. They've had healthy guys. So I would expect Wilson to get at least some work. And we've seen how awesome this offense is in general. I mean, getting guys in this offense, especially guys that get double-digit touches, like it's just good. Like,
yeah, you got to get the guys that are highlighted in this offense, right? The Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and then the RBs that are getting work. I think they've overdid Mostert a little bit to start the season. So I want to say that Jeff Wilson will see more than expected, and I think he should be added in all formats. I think this is an easy pickup.
Yeah.
You can almost make the argument this is 1B to Roshan's 1A, or even switch them.
I was gonna ask you which you prefer. I do have it like basically 1A, 1B, but like 1, 2. Like if I have to put in when I'm putting in waivers, I'll probably prefer Roshan where available.
I think the upside is the unknown with Roshan. So you technically, by safe pick, you should be like Jeff Wilson, but Roshan's a rookie. Roshan looked good in Texas, but he even in Texas didn't get a lot of work. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. But anytime he does touch the ball, looks pretty well. He blocks well. He should have maybe a bigger role than Jeff Wilson. So I think I stick with Roshan too.
It's funny because I know people like if people are listening, they'd be like, how could you say the upside with Roshan with the Bears versus the upside with Wilson with the Dolphins is higher? But I think that's what that point you hit on at the end was. Roshan might have higher upside in the fact that he may be able to carve out a bigger role without injury to another person. Yeah. Like Jeff Wilson has probably more upside. Like if Mostert were to go down, like then Wilson, then you'd prefer Wilson. But like just right now, Roshan has a better chance, I think, than Wilson to have more workload, or at least in the short term.
Roshan's he's that dude, and like he's built. He's built like a superstar running back. Wilson is he's big boy. He's a big boy. He's usually the stable in this backfield in the San Fran or Miami tree, but he has his injury problems as well. And Roshan injuries you can't predict, but I'd rather have Roshan over Wilson right now.
Same.
Number 3 on the list, Amari DiMercato for Arizona. You could put a slash here and put Keontae Ingram if you want. But for me, that's not going to be the case, and I'll explain why. But I'll let you kick off, Norton.
Yeah, see, I'm torn on it because before I was stashing Ingram, like before his neck injury and stuff. Like I was kind of stashing Ingram because I was like, okay, same kind of concept. Stash running backs who you think that if the starter goes down could get a big workload. And I was like, well, Ingram, Connor's kind of notorious for getting banged up and stuff, And so then he started getting injuries of his own. And then obviously we saw DiMercato get the work when Connor went down this week and because Ingram was out. I don't know if Ingram's going to be out or not. I'm honestly not sure. I am like prioritizing DiMercato over Ingram. Like I will say that I do have. I would put more on him, or if I was in a waiver league, I would put more fab on him than Ingram. And if I was in a waiver league, I'd put DiMercato above Ingram in my waiver priority if I'm putting in waivers for those guys. So. But I am kind of torn. I don't know really what to expect. I wonder what you're thinking here.
Yeah, well, I might be pretty biased because it was one of the weird moments where I added Amari DiMercato in a lot of leagues right before Sunday. So I may be a little biased about this. I then ended up watching the game, and Amari looked good. Not amazing. I think he got a couple late bigger runs. He started off a little bit slow, but I think it was towards 3rd or 4th where he had some big chunk yards. Okay. But I have watched Ingram and it's very limited what we have seen, but it is not good. And I have to think that they're kind of regretting this because Ingram, I think, was a 4th rounder, maybe 5th. And I think DiMercato was undrafted. In my opinion, I think Ingram is a borderline cut candidate either throughout the season or by next year. I don't think he stays on this team. I don't think he's good at all. I think DiMercato is kind of solid. He's built nice. He's 5'9", 215. Again, not only is Keontae coming off an injury, so I assume DiMercato will see the majority of work, and whether that's 60-40 if Ingram was to play. I know I would believe DiMercato would see the majority of work, 60-40, 70-30, whatever it may be. But also I think the upside's way higher. I think I don't know if my friend was joking on when he said Reddit tells me to pick up Keontae, which is crazy to me. It's crazy. He has not looked good.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I mean, that's the thing is like heading into it before this week, I would have said Keontae just because like if he checked depth chart and all that kind of stuff, it seemed like he was the guy next. But obviously he's dealing with a neck thing, and then now DeMercado came in, looked fine. I don't know. I mean, I personally, I don't think I'm going to like out for me. I'm probably not putting in waiver. I'm very. I think I've said this before though. I'm very like I like to say selectively aggressive when it comes to waiver wire.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I do is I'll kind of like cut it a little bit earlier than most people in terms of putting in waivers, putting in fab amounts, unless it's a top end guy, and then I go really aggressive after them. Think of it like Achan or I'm thinking of like guys before that, Kyron and those kind of
Puka?
guys.
I mean, you
Puka,
can say
yeah.
Puka was the guy that I mean, I was aggressive with. I don't know how you felt.
I was a little less aggressive than you, but I was still aggressive. Like I still put in waivers and stuff. Because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll save the waiver, and
For those
then
sort of guys.
yeah, and then what I'll do is like after the waivers run, I'll pick up for free after waivers. So like tomorrow morning, I usually go through all my leagues
At
and
4
stuff.
a.m.
Oh yeah, no, I used to do that honestly, but I don't do that anymore. But yeah, so he might be a guy where I only put in waivers in kind of deeper leagues or leagues where I need running backs like right away. And then other leagues I might like if I'm already pretty set, or it's like a 10-team league or something like that where I don't need a running back right away. He might be a guy where I don't put in a waiver, but then I'm checking tomorrow morning to see if he slid through waivers and add him.
It's
to my
hard to
bench.
put a waiver in 10-team for him because it does seem like a rental and he has to do it, right? Like not only is it a rental, he's got to do it to.
Whereas I think the top two are kind of like even 10 teams I might put in.
High upside.
Yeah.
We're going to run through the last group together because I think they're close to almost in the stashing. I guess Justice Hill would be the one that you would say could carve out a role.
He's kind of like to me, he's like the poor man's DeMercado. Like,
but he's actually got like the role too, right?
Yeah, he's kind of splitting obviously with like Gus Edwards, but I think he looks a little bit more explosive than Gus. And he's more of a pass catcher than Gus, but he has a tough matchup this week against Tennessee. We don't love the Tennessee matchup ever. And but yeah, he's getting split work and he splits with his quarterback too. Like that's the thing too. He splits with the quarterback that runs a lot, 10 plus times a game, basically. And so yeah, it's kind of like he's more of a touchdown or bust kind of guy. DeMercado has more of a chance, I think, at more work and more upside than Hill does, the way I see it, kind of.
Yeah. Then the remaining backs on this list: Tyjae Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Keontae Ingram, Deontay Foreman, Elijah Mitchell, Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Ronnie Rivers are all pieces that we're telling you if you have the room. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Norton, and add anything that you'd like. If you have the room, get them on your bench ASAP because you never know when an injury is going to go down. Like not having to spend on DeMercado is great because I get to see this upside for free, essentially. You want that with all of these guys that you're looking at. Tyjae is carving out a little bit of role in the passing game. Charbonnet has a little bit of a role, even though Kenneth Walker is a dog. I don't know how I feel about Keontae Ingram or Deontay Foreman, but I love the stash RBs. I think you can even add on the stash RBs Jordan Mason.
Right? I had him on there. And yeah, I agree because he's the one. Obviously, Jordan Mason's the one where like if Elijah Mitchell's injury lingers, then Mason's a guy you're going to definitely want to have around because we saw him like it's another offense that's good. Awesome, and he's done good when he's given the work. Obviously, he wouldn't get the work unless CMC goes down, but that's the whole point. Most of these guys won't unless they get the top guy goes down. I will say with Spears and Charbonnet, they're a little bit flex worthy, like you said. You mentioned it, like Spears is starting to get more work. Charbonnet is getting some work. Spears is actually getting way more work than I thought he would.
He's about 50-50. Not work necessarily, but snaps, right?
Yeah, it's closing in on that, I'm pretty sure. So that's what's wild. Whereas Charbonnet is more of like a 30%, I'd say. Like 25 to 30% snap share kind of guy. I think Charbonnet has more upside than Spears. I think that
injury.
Yeah. I think if like, for example, Henry and Walker both went down on the same week, I'd prefer Charbonnet over Spears just because the offense in general, I think, is better. He's a little bit more of both of them pass catch fine. And trust me, if Henry and Walker went down in the same week, these two are number 1 and 2, or 1A and 1B, they're literally all like empty fab kind of guys for me. Like, so that's why we're telling you now to just stash them as much as you can.
There. Yep.
Yeah, because they have a little bit of flex appeal in a pinch, and they're like Jalen Warren essentially, but I think higher upside than Warren.
Yeah, I'm desperate in the league where I went 0 RB, and Warren was our starter this week. We have Barkley and Javonte. You know who we started? Jaleel McLaughlin and Warren this week. We lost. That was one of the lost by 2.
You know what's funny is I have a league where I had Ford on bye, I had Bijan, and then I had Barkley out. So last minute I picked up Spears and started him this past week, and it paid off. I ended up winning barely.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Dude, those RBs, that's the thing, that if they're getting snaps, it really helps. But yeah, stash those guys. We'll come back to this. If God forbid, if an injury happens, which injuries happen in the NFL, we're going to say, we told you to stash them, and they're going to be out there sitting at you, and everybody's ready to spend 1,000 fab or 200 fab, whatever your limit is.
Yep.
Let's get to some of these wide receivers. So this first one, I actually had a little bit of an issue with, but I can understand where you're coming from. So it's completely understood. So KJ Osborne, I'll kick it off just to get my thoughts out there before and let you kind of answer to that. I think it has all the feels like it would be a good pickup. It really does. Like, oh, Justin Jefferson might be out, and literally, if Minnesota Vikings don't start winning games, I'd be really concerned with Justin Jefferson. I would truly be concerned with JJ for the rest of the season. But this might be a waste. Like, if you have the roster spot, fine. But I'm having a hard time seeing this as not just Addison and Hockenson, especially once they game plan it that way. I know KJ had, I think, 9 targets this week, caught 4 or 5 of them. I don't know, dude. I don't know. This feels like Van Jefferson. That's what it feels like. This feels like Van Jefferson last year.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. I was really interested to hear your thoughts on KJ Osborne, because I listen to a lot of podcasts throughout the day, different things, and he was all over the place on where they valued
This is the
him.
time, Willie. This is the time.
KJ has trade value now.
Yeah, he's been holding him for a while.
Move him while you can. But yeah, like, obviously he had a good game once he went down. I've heard so many different takes on this. Like, I've heard your take about think it's a big, huge boost basically for Addison and Hockenson. I've heard some people say that they don't think it's very much of a bump for either of those guys, and it's a massive bump for Osborne because they're saying, oh, he's going to get on the field more, he's going to run more routes, blah, blah, blah. I kind of more lean towards you the more I look into it, because I was looking at it here. Listen to his routes for route participation, starting from week 1, 94, 96, 95, 90. This week he actually had his lowest at 88%. So I don't think
has Jordan Addison been bumping up slowly?
Addison, kind of, yeah. 66, 78, 80, 71, 82. Now, KJ Osborne's target percentage and target per route run and things were the highest of the season this time. But so I do think it is a boost. I'm torn because I've heard so many people say.
Does Kirk ever look to the number 2 guy though? Does he?
Right?
Like Jordan Addison's barely got any burn, and it sounds like his routes weren't that high, but Kirk is like tight end and wide receiver 1, the X.
Yeah, no, yeah, and so I do have been leaning more and more towards, I think it's big bump for them, and I do think Osborne becomes like
boom bust.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a I guess I would say the poor man's Gabe Davis somewhat, but like not that style of player. Right. He's not the same style of player, but yeah,
I mean, but they send him deep a lot. But I can't believe you just read off those route participations and people are still believing that this is somehow a boost. I get it, more targets open up, but right. Like he's out there running wind sprints all game anyways, and he wasn't getting targeted.
Right, and so it'll be interesting to see if like his route tree expands. Maybe, I don't know.
Sometimes that happens. I get it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I went into it thinking like, to me, he's like the clear-cut wide receiver to get. of this to being a little bit more murky. I still probably would have him as the number one wide receiver, but I prefer the running backs over. Whereas, like, I've heard multiple podcasts today say KJ Osborne's the number one overall waiver priority with a bullet.
No.
Like, boom. And
Nope.
and I'm like, and the more I think about it, the more I look into it.
He's not even my wide receiver 1 out of the list you provided.
Ooh, I'm interested to hear.
He may be wide receiver 3. I will tell you my number 1 though. And that big suspension drop. Josh Downs is number 2 here. I think this is a great one. I think Josh Downs I mean, I love the film from North Carolina. Obviously, everybody says it, talks about it all the time. Size is a concern, but we got to get past this size is a concern thing. I get it. Like, I think there could be like advantage, disadvantage. But I mean, there's guys that are just not that big and they're doing the thing. And Josh Downs is going to be one of them. Gardner Minshew looks at him a ton. Who do you have 9 targets this week? And then even in week 6 and in week, what was that? He had another week with Gardner and he did well.
He had like 12. He had 12. I'm pretty sure he had 12 the 1 week. 11.
This is one of my DFS plays so far right now.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all because honestly, looking at his underlying stuff, it is more like encouraging than KJ's. Like, and we kind of just know what KJ is at this point in his career, right?
Right.
I think Downs does have more upside personally, as well. And Downs, like, so I'm looking at the routes. It's 77, 77, 84, 87, 82. So he's at like 81 on the season now. This past week, he had a 25% target share, 26% target per route run, 30% air yard share. On the season, it's like 20% target per route run, 20% target share, 19% air yard share. Solid, especially when you're playing with most of the time with a QB that's more of a runner. And we've seen the games that he's been with Minshew has been the games he's getting more targets. So, and obviously we know Minshew's going to be there 4 to 6 plus weeks.
Guess what time's coming up too? We're at week 6. You want one of these rookie wide receivers. And here, let me just put the last one because this is my number 1 right here. Ooh. But close second with Josh Downs. I would love to have both of them.
I'm interested to hear.
So at wide receivers, this is the time where like we know who the elite of this class is going to be. And I don't think we've seen who the elite was. At one point I thought it was Zay Flowers, and I think he's been the best. I think.
Yeah.
Am I forgetting somebody?
Addison
might come along. But
Addison's been good every week but one. He had that one goose egg. He was good. He had like good numbers the other week, and then he had like 4 for 60 and a touchdown, 3 for 70 and a touchdown. Then he had like his highest target total and yards, but no touchdown. Then he had a goose egg. Then he had a good game this week. So I think he's technically been number 1, but Flowers has probably had more targets.
So I really, really like watching Rashi play. Every time he's out there, he runs a clean route. He does what he's supposed to. Here's the downside is Andy Reid doesn't necessarily love throwing a rookie in pretty much ever. They have this commitment to this wide receiver by committee thing that they keep on rolling. We saw Justin Ross get some burn this week, and it was good to see. So that's my concern with Rashi. But to me, he's the clear-cut number 1 in this room. I truly believe that. He's already the number 1 in this room.
Yeah. So
Kelsey, obviously.
Right. So it's funny because in that little
he's right. We are forgetting Puka. Puka might be that guy.
That's true. I didn't even think about. It's so funny because I don't even think about Puka as a rookie in a sense because I just don't think of him in that draft class. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't.
It was so late. He was a 5th round pick or something. I think I overheard an announcer say, or one of the guys on Fox Sunday or whatever, were like 2nd round pick Puka. I'm like, that dude was not a 2nd round pick.
No, he was like 4th or 5th round or something.
Yeah, he's 5th.
5th, yeah. So with Rashi Rice, I was higher than consensus heading into the year 1 on him, and then like once we come out and saw he had 27% routes, 13% routes the first 2 weeks, I was like kind of like this sucks. Like, but his underlying stuff is so good. Like I think I saw a stat that he's like near league lead among all wide receivers, not just rookies, just all of them in like targets per route run, because he's at 35% targets per route run. That's like
when is Patty gonna say, "Hey Andy, you need to get my guy out there"?
Dude, that's what I know. It's like, so I put out there on the recapper because I was looking through their wide receiver like game data from all 5 of the guys or 7 of the guys or whatever it is, and I put out that Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney are the only ones that are even like worth rostering because they're the only ones that with upside. And like obviously we know with Kadarius Toney, like it's been such a roller coaster.
Right.
Rice obviously is a rookie. So, and the thing is, even this game, he only had 23% route participation, but he had a 50% target per route run. And people don't know what that means. Like basically, every time he ran a route, every other route that he ran, he got the ball.
Targeted.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, that's an insane level. And like I said, on the season, he's at 35%, which is the highest among all of them. Tony's at 33%. And the funny part is those guys are at like 32% routes and 27% routes. It's like, get these guys out there more. Sky Moore's doing nothing. MVS is we know what MVS is. He's a field stretcher. That's it. Like Sky Moore hasn't been good. Richie James, Justin Ross, all these other guys, Justin Watson, they're not anything. Get these other guys out there that are actual playmakers.
Guys. Yeah. And I think Sky's snaps are slowly kind of seeing a decrease. It went from 65 2 weeks ago to 59 to 56.
Yep, and his routes going down too. Same kind of thing, 59, 50, 53.
It may be a slow process, but I think Rashi really has a chance to be like who we look back at like 2021 when we're talking about Justin Jefferson. That's where I put Rashee Rice right now. I am not saying he is Justin Jefferson. I am saying he has the upside if he gives the opportunity that Justin Jefferson started to get the second half of that year. Was it 2021? I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
Because 2020 was Chase.
Or maybe opposite.
Really?
Yeah, Jefferson came out the year before Chase, right?
Okay. So then it was 2020 was Jefferson, 2021 was Chase because T. Higgins was drafted 2020. You got it. You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, but either way, though, obviously it's the same concept. Like you said, like he started off slow, came on. And the thing is like, it's so weird. I was with some buddies on Sunday. We were talking about this because we were watching this game. It's so weird that no receiver out of all these guys has emerged catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. Like,
I know, man.
What is going? Like, you'd think one of these guys, at least just one, along with Kelsey, would be fantasy relevant, and just none of them really have it. I do think Rice is my priority over any of them. Tony's close second, but I've always had the Tony love because I think if he gets a full-time role, he can be nasty. It's just I don't know if he'll ever get the full-time role. I think he's like that.
I don't think he'll ever stay healthy.
Right. So Rice is the guy that like has the most realistic shot at upside among this group, in my opinion, as well.
Wide receivers coming off a bye to check for Elijah Moore, Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and JSN. I'm giving Quentin. I got to give QJ another week or two after this bye. They have to get him incorporated in that offense. You can't just kill his progression this way.
Yeah, and it's weird because he's another one. He would be the perfect one. Like I'd really love to stash QJ right now if I didn't need to. If I didn't need to play one of these guys this week or whatever, stash QJ. We always talk about like the rookies in the second half of this year, and especially a lot of times it seems like. I mean, I know it's like I don't know if it's a narrative or if it's a real legit thing. It's like guys coming off of or rookies coming out of the bye week, like, and then they just start turning it on. So like,
really?
Him and JSN. Obviously, QJ has a more realistic path right now to playing time and things. Like JSN would kind of need the other guys to go away a little bit unless they started playing more. I mean, he's running enough routes that it could be, and like
right,
but. Both of those guys have a lot of upside, I think, QJ and JSN.
I definitely agree with that. I think these are all guys. The only one I probably would not want on rosters because I just don't believe in his talent is Joshua Palmer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's get to some tight ends. Logan Thomas went off, and he's quietly been having a great year. And he's available in a ton of leagues because I see him in almost every dynasty league, every redraft league. But he's probably what? Let me check real quick. And I think this might give me, unfortunately, 1.5 PPR. 11, tight end 11 right now.
Yeah, he might. He honestly is right around there. I know he finished. So like this week, he finished 3 in PPR, and then in the first 2 weeks, 11 and 10, and then week 4 was 21. But like on the season, he's like
steady Eddie.
Yeah, he's been good, dude, and he's someone I wrote off almost completely heading into the year.
Every year. I just always I have troubles with the guys that like were once a different position are playing this position now, even though he's had some success. He had a year where he was top 5.
Yeah, I actually liked him a few years back. I didn't like him this year, being that I liked
Sam Howell.
Yeah, well, it was Sam Howell. The Sam Howell factor. I didn't think Sam Howell was gonna support 3 guys, and I liked McLaurin and Dotson. And then on top of that, he's coming off of a big injury, I'm pretty sure, last year, and he's older, and like all the combination of things. Yeah, I'm like, I'm out. But he's been good.
He's a good guy to stash, plug in if you have a injured tight end. I don't expect him to fall in the top 5 again this year, but it wouldn't shock me if he fell in the top 12. It's not immensely difficult. Dalton Schultz. Go ahead. You had another thing on Logan Thomas.
I was gonna say something Robbie talked to us about earlier. He was getting pretty hyped on Logan Thomas for this week. He was talking about the last 3 weeks, Falcons defense has allowed 8, 7, and 7 receptions to tight ends, the top tight end on a team. So I know he's all in as well. So the matchup looks pretty strong this week for Thomas. If you need a guy this week.
There's another guy on this list that has a great matchup. But we'll talk about Dalton Schultz real quick, who had 10 targets, first double-digit targets of the season, 7 receptions for 65 yards and 1 touchdown. We did see Tank Dell leave this game with a concussion. Don't know if he'll be back for next week, so this automatically kind of puts Dalton Schultz at a position where you might be able to plug and play him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And that now makes his like second solid game in a row. He was really rough the first 3 games. CJ Stroud's been playing well for the most part of the season as well. Playing in a dome.
2 tutties in a row.
Yeah, so
he does see New Orleans next week, which is usually a tough matchup against tight ends.
He's either my second or third priority. I kind of waffled back and forth with him and the next guy for this week. Like, there he is. There he is, big old Zach Ertz.
This is about CJ Stroud. You mean phenomenal. Yeah, so exactly. Zach Ertz is actually, I think, has a great freaking matchup. I mean, we just saw Dallas Goedert tear up this Rams defense with 7 for 111 and a touchdown. The Rams defense ranks 28th against tight ends, so they've been miserable against them. And me and Robbie were talking about Dallas Goedert. We said, hey, he's going to be a good play. I think they finally get him involved. Nick Sirianni has a good way of, like, I don't know. It almost seems like he plays fantasy football because it's like, oh, well, this guy, they suck against this position. He does it all the time. And
yeah, like really hyper focuses on a matchup.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah. Dude, Ertz is just like Logan Thomas for me heading into the year. He was coming off of a big injury. I didn't even know if he was going to be healthy or not. I was out on the offense, especially early in the year, thinking it was going to be Colt McCoy and whatnot. I was like, dude, I want 0 Zach Ertz. The craziest part about this whole thing is, to me, I was looking at it more today. Among tight ends, he's 6th in route participation, 82%. If you get over 80%, that's like big time. 4th in targets per route run, 24%. 4th in air yards share. I'm talking, dude, Zach Ertz, the guy who is. There's a thing on Twitter about, hey, has no yak, is 4th in air yards share at 20%, and then he leads all tight ends in the NFL in target share, 23%. Like, crazy.
Crazy.
I feel like it's not real. Like, it just doesn't feel real to me. I feel like it's gonna fall off at some point. I keep, like, I've played him in DFS probably 2 or 3 past weeks in a row, honestly.
And this isn't on like a small amount of targets. Like this is on, he almost averages, it's very close to 7 targets a game.
Yeah.
He's got 34 targets through 5 weeks.
It's so crazy to me. I didn't expect this kind of output from a
32-year-old coming off of a terrible injury as well. What did he have, a meniscus or an AC? I think it was meniscus.
Yeah, like I honestly thought he was done. Like I was like, this dude's done. It's over for him.
Yeah, and Trey McBride is not involved, which he was a 2nd-round pick. It's very odd. They're taking their time with him, getting him into the game, but
yeah, it's weird.
It is weird.
But yeah, I like Ertz a lot this week. I kind of moved him to 3, but I may move him above Schultz. I don't know. I think any of these 3 guys you could put in probably any order, just for preference. They all have stuff that you like about them or can nitpick about. So
yeah, I think I tend to go Ertz over Logan Thomas here, and the reason for me for this week specifically, which most of these tight ends kind of are just your plug and play. Ertz over Thomas for me, I think, is the play. You get Rams have that really good cornerback that is playing lockdown, which is really going to have to funnel the offense through guys like Amari DiMercato and Zach Ertz, because that cornerback is just playing that well. I'm trying to think of his name right now. Akil Weatherspoon. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Just going off the top of my head. Yep. Been playing like lockdown defense on wide receivers. So you would imagine he's going to be seeing a lot of Hollywood Brown, which just makes me think that Ertz and DiMercato might be the plays this week for how the Cardinals can stay competitive with the Rams. Last note you had here is to check to see if David Njoku was dropped on a bye. David Njoku.
Where would you put him among these? Because like
I would take him over all of them, but it's because of this damn name.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it's wild because like he's like,
I wouldn't rank him like higher this week though.
Right. And that's the thing is like, I guess if you're in a situation where you're 2-3, 1-4, 0-5, maybe you would go with the other guys, knowing you just want to do whatever you can this week. But if you're got a better record, probably prioritize Njoku because he's got more upside and more long-term appeal and upside in my opinion as well. So like those are the kind of things where it's very context dependent, but I agree because I was looking and he's like, I think he was rostered in like 61% or 56%.
He has been pretty horrendous. He sees San Francisco this week. That's not a great matchup. I mean, if anything, we don't even know if he's going to have Deshaun. It's just kind of like if you need to win this week, Walker. It might be PJ Walker. If you need to win this week, I don't think you can prioritize David Njoku. If you need to win now, it's got to be probably any of these 3. Honestly, specifically, I would go Thomas and Ertz over Njoku for this week.
Yeah,
but if
I wouldn't be surprised.
You could stash.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with all 3 of those top 3 in my
You good?
All 3 in my top 12.
Yeah. I agree. With this week, it's pretty crazy. They got some good matchups though. Norton, any last thoughts, dude?
No, yeah. Make sure you get them waiver wire claims in, and then prioritize what you need. Make sure you know your league context, what your record is, what you need specifically. Prioritize it that way, and because it's really is context dependent. I think there's a lot of like ambiguity when it comes to especially running backs. There's a lot of different kind of options and different kind of guys this week to really prioritize.
I second that. If you guys have any other questions for us, send us DMs. I think our DMs are open. Tweet at us, whatever it may be. We'll be answering all week. We have a couple more episodes following. Tomorrow we got our buy sell episode. Thursday, me and Robbie talk about our must start sits and DFS plays, and then Sunday it's me and you, Norton. We'll go live back on the for live start sits, and we'll take all questions that day.
Be helping people win some matchups.
Win some matchups. For myself, for Norton, we love you guys. Peace out. Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at DadBodFS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at DadBod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies and not our calories.